New York Congresswoman Elise is here with us in studio. Congresswoman, thanks so much for joining us. I know this is a busy day for you.
Yes, it's an exciting day.
It's an exciting day, the rally at the end of the day that you will be at. Tell me a little bit about, obviously a calculated decision for the former president to be in New York rather than a swing state, though he has gone to many swing states. We saw Vice President Harris do a similar thing in Houston. Why here? Why now?
Well, President Trump is a New Yorker, and despite the fact that he lives in Florida, he is popular among New York, and he's going to be a president for all Americans. You can see the historic support. In less than 3 hours, every ticket was sold to this Madison Square Garden. Kamala Harris, no matter how much time you would give her, she would never be able to fill up an arena like this. And President Trump has been a visionary in growing today's Republican Party. Look at the historic support among African-American voters, Hispanic voters, Jewish voters, working-class voters, voters that were previously registered as Democrats who are voting for this America First movement led by President Trump. So it's a historic day. And as you will remember, it was New York that flipped 5 seats that delivered the House Republican majority. We have made inroads in this state, and President Trump has led that effort. So I think we're going to have some surprises on election night when we see him overperform in New York.
Well, okay, let's talk about the gender gap then. We're seeing a gender gap here, specifically widen in this election. Women seem to be breaking more so for the vice president, and now she is actively looking to go after some of the young men who are, saying they support the former president. What's with the gender gap, in your opinion?
Well, I am one of the national chairs of Women for Trump, and we've tried to focus on his tremendous record when it came to opportunity for women. If you look at President Trump's economy, you had more women in the workforce than ever before. You had the highest wage and salary increase, a pay raise for working women across this country. You had child care that was affordable, and border security, safety issues. Those are women's issues as well. President Trump is also in line with the vast majority of women across the country when he says that the state should decide on the issue of abortion. So we have an opportunity in this closing argument, and it's Kamala Harris's campaign that's flailing. While she may be winning certain demographics, she is losing demographics that the Democrat Party has relied on and has felt entitled to for far too long.
I want to talk to you about something that I'm sure you get asked a lot. We've asked the former president, we've asked his running mate, J.D. Vance. You voted against certifying the 2020 election results in several states, even after the president lost case after case, saying that there was fraud. I'm wondering, when we ask the question to the former president and J.D. Vance, they will say, if it's free and fair. Mike Johnson says the same thing. So I'm asking you, will you vote to certify the results of this election, no matter what the outcome?
We need election integrity in this country. If we don't have fair and constitutional elections, then we lose our country. I stand by my floor speech that I gave in January of 2021, standing up for the Constitution, for the rule of law. And you incorrectly pointed out that court cases ruled. They did not rule. In most cases, they did not even hear those cases out. So that is a false accusation from you. The president has been correct in standing up for election integrity. And as long as this election is constitutional and we protect the ballot box, of course I will stand up and support secure elections. But the same question is not posed to Democrats. You already have Democrats saying and sowing doubt on the integrity of this election because they see the flooding of the polls. So you can't ask one party and not the other. And I will remind you, every Republican president since 1980, there have been Democrat members of Congress who challenged the election integrity. And then the media didn't say anything. It's only Republicans that they focus. We will proudly stand up for constitutional elections, but I think President Trump is going to win by such a margin that this will be called on election night. I think not only is he going to win the Electoral College, but the popular vote as well, which is why it's so important to turn out the vote. Every vote's going to matter.
Okay, first of all, not an accusation. I was just pointing out that there were a lot of cases, and there were cases on fraud, and
they didn't hear those cases. Not that they ruled against his favor. They didn't hear those cases.
So it's a choice not to hear the cases.
It is a choice not to hear those cases.
But I'm just saying he didn't prove that there was fraud. Anyways, that's not an argument we need to get into.
But I'm not going to let you leave it at that. In those cases, those courts chose not to hear those cases. We stand by standing up for election integrity. That's our responsibility as members of Congress, and the American people agree with us.
It seems like both sides are sowing doubt. We've heard the president say this election is going to be rigged. So when I ask you the question, are you going to certify the election? I ask because your answer is if there's a free and fair election. That's what we hear from most everybody. The former president says it's not going to be free and fair already, and you're saying some of the Democrats are saying that too. So are we heading toward not certifying again?
No,
really my
we
question.
are focused on making sure that we have a secure constitutional election. That means states abiding by their laws on the books passed by the legislature, not rewriting those laws. That's why you're seeing us standing up in key states to make sure that they're abiding by those laws. Even in New York State, I mean, there have been egregious overreaches by Democrats when they tried to allow illegals to vote in municipal elections. That was a successful litigation that I led with the New York Republican Party not allowing this. So these are very serious issues. And the President Trump is right to stand up for election integrity.
Let's get to two more issues while I have you here, because I know you have a lot to do today. You sort of led the charge when Congress grilled those university presidents after we saw pro-Palestinian rallies and protests on campuses across the country. And that we saw anti-Semitism in some cases that followed. Do you think that this administration's connection to Israel during this time of the Israel-Hamas war could be a make-or-break issue in this election, as Michigan is so important?
Absolutely. And at every opportunity, Kamala Harris and Joe Biden have failed to stand with Israel. Take the U.S. military aid that is very important for Israel at this particular time as they are under existential threat. This is an administration under Joe Biden and Kamala Harris who slow-walked that military support getting to Israel. Compare that with President Trump. You had peace and stability in the region and the greatest breakthrough for normalization between Israel and Arab countries with the Abraham Accords. The other piece related to the college campuses, Joe Biden and Kamala Harris's Department of Education has refused to investigate these universities for their failure to protect Jewish students. On day one, President Trump is going to make sure we enforce civil rights protections for Jewish students and hold these universities accountable.
He's also talked about bringing back a Muslim ban.
He has talked about securing our borders and making sure that we do not have terrorist threats, which this administration under Kamala Harris has allowed individuals on the terrorist watch list, including in my district, to illegally cross our borders. So if you're referencing President Trump's border security, which the vast majority of the American people support, I certainly support his border security policies, which is why we voted for the Secure the Border Act. Before
you go, I've got to ask you, I don't know if you're going to break any news, but New York Governor Kathy Hochul only narrowly won re-election 2 years ago. Any chance that we might see you run?
Listen, we're focused on electing President Trump. I'm honored to serve as the representative for New York's 21st District. But I can tell you what, New Yorkers are going to fire Kathy Hochul 2 years from now after we fire Joe Biden and Kamala Harris.
So that wasn't a no.
I'm focused on this election first.
Okay.
I think you're going to see a lot of great potential candidates and names on the Republican side to fire Kathy Hochul.
Okay. Congresswoman, thank you so much for taking the time.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.